Having a super fantastic sparkling day. It's a beautiful rainy day here. It is awesome. I love it when it rains. So tonight, welcome to Porchlight Letters podcast number 2496. And tonight's topic is ancestors didn't always keep the same name. As we know, there are times when we're researching that all of a sudden a name disappears and we don't know where it's gone. We don't know why. It's simply because the name's been changed in some way. They didn't, let's see. Sorry, one moment. There's a lot of reasons that names could change. But one of the biggest surprises for beginning genealogists is discovering that ancestors do not always keep the same name throughout their lives. In fact, the same person may appear under several different names across historical records. Why? Why did the names change? Sometimes it was intentional, sometimes it wasn't. Names could change because of immigration, language translation, marriage, clerical spelling errors. And this happened a lot if the person didn't know how to spell their name, and that was quite common at times, then however the person doing the writing heard it, that's how they spelt it. They tried to spell it as close as possible, but otherwise it came down to phonetic spelling. Illiteracy, adoption or stepfamilies, cultural assimilation, personal choices, changing borders and countries. For example, a man listed as Giuseppe Rossi in one country may later appear as Joseph Ross in another. He just anglicized, is that what the word was? Anglicized his name. As a surname may be shortened, translated, simplified, or spelled differently by census takers, immigration officials, or church clerks. If they had documentation in front of them, they would then copy the spelling of that documentation. If they didn't, they had to do it by how they heard it and thought it was spelt. Women may appear under maiden names, married names, remarried names, nicknames, or initials. Now, this was quite common. You would have, I find this often when I'm dealing with a woman who has been married multiple times. The first marriage is under her maiden name. Her husband dies, she gets remarried. Her second marriage is under her first married name. This happened in my family with my second great-grandmother. Third great-grandmother, With my second great-grandmother, second great-grandmother. When she first got married, her married name was under her, we could find her marriage records under Scantlebury, which was her maiden name. Then she got married to a Bullen, and he ended up getting killed in a mining accident. And so she later got married to somebody called Brundle. When that marriage took place, it was under Bullen to Brundle, not Scantlebury to Brundle. So we had to use the married name to find her second marriage. Half the time with the men, when you're looking for the woman, it's easier to go by the men's married name and then find out who he got married to. And sometimes you can find it that way too. Sorry, I've got this persistent tickle in my throat. Excuse me. So when you're looking for a woman's name, look to see how many times you may not know that she got married multiple times. This happened with my fourth great-grandmother. My fourth great-grandmother was married to my fourth great-grandfather. They had my third great-grandfather. My third great-grandfather was not baptized until his fifth birthday, his number 5 birthday. And here's a really cool thing. When I looked at the baptismal record, it had him there, had his name there and his birth and his birth. They actually wrote down his birth date as well. Then it had that the mother was Elizabeth Morris and lived at this particular address. And then it had a funny little line that went through it and had William Henry. Hang on. No, she wasn't Morris. Her married name wasn't Morris. Her maiden name wasn't Morris. It had her maiden name there, Elizabeth, whatever her maiden name was. No. Hang on. Yes, no, she was Morris, was her maiden name. Then it had her husband's name, which I'm trying to figure out really quick what it is. Price. They had William Henry Price was the father, but it had a line through there, and it had William Henry Price was of and where he was from in Essex. And I'm like thinking, why would that be there? And then it had the rest of the information. And so then as I normally do, I looked above and I looked below, and the line below was for a child whose last name was Barrington, but his mother's name was also Elizabeth Morris, of the same address as my third great grandfather. And so when I went and looked to see if she got married again, I looked under Richard Barrington, which was her husband's name, and I found her record, her marriage record, and she was listed as Elizabeth Price on that marriage record, not Elizabeth Morris, which was her maiden name. So a lot of times when they got remarried, if they got remarried, it was their previous married name that they used for that marriage license, because that legally was their name. There was the odd occasion, and it's very, very rare that I've come across this, where the woman diverted back to her maiden name for her second marriage. And of course, those were quite common in those days. And that's why good genealogy research requires flexibility and curiosity. I just got off a really cool call with a friend of mine, and she's looking at how we can use AI a little more in my business. And it was a very interesting conversation. And we ended up looking at records and things like that for her family, because I have a basis tree that I've started for her. And so I'm going to be working on that with the AI tools, which will be kind of fun. But we're talking about stuff like this. And so, you got to have requires flexibility and curiosity. Genealogy is not boom, 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 boom. It'd be great if it was that way, but sometimes you've got to go boom, da da boom, da da boom, da da boom, da da boom, da bum. That is my new technical term on how genealogy works. It can go all over the place. And sometimes the key to finding an ancestor is not searching for the exact name. On a lot of things, it has a box that you can tick for exact. The exact means it is exactly this name with this exact spelling. No, leave that unchecked, because by searching all ways, that name might have changed over time. For example, my mother-in-law's maiden name, I have 27 variations of its spelling. 27. And I have found records for her and the other members of her family with that same last name all over the place, even in the same county where her grandfather, her grandfather came over from Germany, moved into this into the state and location, and even amongst all of the records that are there, including census reports and birth records and death records and marriage records and everything else, I found most of those 27 spellings. For one family who was there for a number of years, there was almost 27 different spellings on their last name. Yeah. So when you're looking for a name, remember, it may not be the exact spelling. You can look under the exact spelling to start off with, but if you don't find anything, remove that check mark on the backs on the exact spelling and click the little box that says sounds like, or soundex, I think it is, which means it sounds like. And in genealogy, it's important to remember the spelling may change. The person is still the same, but the spelling may change. And it could even be that the family decides to change the name. My husband's last name was Brahms, Brahms. Yes. And people keep going, are you related to the composer? Absolutely not. When the family came into the United States, they came in as a Abramsovich. They came from Lithuania, Ukraine, and Russia with that last name, Abramsovich. Well, actually, the whole family, maiden's mother's side and all of that sort of thing as well. But they came in as Abramsovich. When they got here, some kept the Abramsovich, some shortened it to Abrams. My husband's grandfather changed it to Brahms when my husband's dad was about 5 or 6. He changed it from Abrams to Brahms, and it's been Brahms ever since. So even then, people could decide to change the names as well and go through the channels and all that sort of stuff to change the names and everything else. Looking at one right now, we've got 2 different first names, but he was known by his initials. So what do the initials stand for? Don't know yet. We've got 2 different versions of what the initials stood for. And I was just looking at this with my friend. We were just looking at her, is it her great-grandfather? I think it's her great-grandfather. We were looking at his name, and she goes, oh, yeah, he was always known by these two letters. And apparently there's no names attached. And I said, well, somehow I've gotten this in here. And this is when I did a very quick, dirty look. It's a quick down, dirty look when you first, when you're going through and you find, yep. And so I'm not sure where the first two names came from that created those two letters. But then we found other documents that had him listed with a different middle name for the second letter and a different first name for the first letter. So now we have to go and find out which is correct. Was he actually born with just the initials, or did his initials actually mean something when he was born and he later adopted the two letters and just decided to be called that for the rest of his life? Even on his military records, which I just sent to her, it says it's got his initials, and then in parentheses it has initials only. And it takes me back to, I don't know, this. I'm such a movie nerd. It takes me back to the Amazon series of Jack, the books of Jack Reacher. Jack, no middle name Reacher. They had to actually put that on film, no middle name Reacher. But anyway, so he was known by these two letters, JT. That was it. Now what does the JT stand for? That's what we're investigating and finding out now. So we'll see where that takes us. But always remember, keep an open mind, be creative, think of different ways of spelling the name. If you've got documents where the names are spelled different, try searching under those names as well. Yes, it takes a while. Yes, you have to do a thing, but in Ancestry, it also has a fact field that you can put in there, which is AKA, also known as, and then you can put the different spelling or the names in there with the different spellings. And then when it does a search, it searches through all of those. So you kind of got them covered. Some of them you have to manually go and search by the names. But most of the time you can just do that, and there it goes. So with that, we are out of here. Go out, have a super fantastic, sparkling evening, and we'll catch you guys back here tomorrow evening at 6 p.m. Pacific. Hei konera.